Hi guys, it is Kate here with a brand new backdrop. I'm pretty sure this is going to be my new setup. The glare behind my head filming in front of the cabinet was bothering me, and then I thought the wall that I was at looked very bland, so my lovely mother made this backdrop for me, and I hope you like it. I think it seems kind of bookish, this toile pattern. It looks like there are some stories happening there, so I hope you like it and it's not too busy, and I'm just really happy to have a new background. So I'm very excited for the video I'm filming today, and I'm wearing a cheerful shirt for it, and that is my spring TBR. Now I think I am one of the, I am in the minority in that I crave certain books for all seasons. So I know a lot of people like wintry books or fall books, but I also have certain spring and summer books that I think of. So I'm going to be making seasonal TBRs from now on. I really like that system because I do like having some structure, having some goals, but the monthly TBR was getting to be kind of cumbersome and it just seemed over the top, I guess. Anyhow, I'm looking forward to showing these to you, and so either I crave modern classics in the springtime, or I crave just books with cheerful covers and the stories kind of are cheerful. So I just like things to be like light and happy in the springtime, and those are the kinds of books that I've picked. So without further ado, the first in my spring TBR, it would not be spring without Miss Rosamund Pilcher, and tragically I have run out of her like thicker 500 to 900 page novels, and I now am stuck with only like 300 page books. So I will fly through these, so I do want to savor them. And this one that I have is Wild Mountain Thyme, and it's about a man who is an author, and he used to be in a romantic relationship with this woman, and they have broken up. But then several years later, she shows up at his door with a kid, and they, of course, travel off to a Scottish castle, because it wouldn't be a Rosamund Pilcher book without someone going to a Scottish castle. And I'm just looking forward to reading another. The last one I read was all the way in December, which feels, since she is one of my favorite authors, that feels like a long time ago. And it's nice on the one hand, though, that the only ones I have left are very short ones, because that means I can fit, you know, fit one in here and there. And another nice little short modern classic that I have is Mrs. Arris Goes to Paris by Paul Gallico. I found out about this Mrs. Arris series from the made-for-TV movie starring Angela Lansbury back in the 90s. And this is just about a woman who has been a char lady, a maid for most of her adult life, and when in one of the houses that she's cleaning, she sees a Dior dress hanging for a ball someone's going to. She decides that she wants to save every spare penny that she has, and eventually travels to Paris to buy a Dior dress. But it's just a very short and sweet novel. I think it's not even 150 pages. That's what it's around. So I think it will be a nice sweet read. I could even do, you know, in a day. If I have a babysitting day, maybe I'll take this. I think it would just be really a fun spring read. And then an author I have been scared of reading since I read Christmas Pudding by Nancy Mitford, and I did not enjoy it that much. So it has taken me over a year to work up the courage to try another Nancy Mitford, and this is The Pursuit of Love. This and Love in a Cold Climate are her two most famous. So starting with Christmas Pudding for a new author was probably not the best route to go. So I'm trying The Pursuit of Love, and it's just about this really unconventional family and the girls in the family hopefully finding love, and I think there's supposed to be a fair amount of humor. The Mitford family was very eccentric, so I am assuming any book by Nancy Mitford is going to feel very different from others. So this is a modern classic that I've been meaning to get to for a while, and I will let everyone know what I think of it. Next on the list is an author that I'm letting myself be treated to again, and that is Gerald Durrell's Birds, Beasts, and Relatives. The first in this Corfu trilogy is My Family and Other Animals, which ended up being one of my favorite books of the year. I loved it so much, and it's just about the unconventional Durrell family who up and leave their, you know, gloomy, rainy England in the springtime and head to Corfu. And it's full of hilarious anecdotes, but also beautiful writing, and it's really fun to get to know this quirky family. So Birds, Beasts, and Relatives is the follow-up. I assume they're still living on the island of Corfu. I will report back what I think of this, though. And next, I can't have a whole slew of modern classics that I'm going to be reading without including an Angela Thirkle. This is Pomfret Towers, and I'm not sure exactly what this one is about. It's just very typical Barsetshire. There are going to be house parties. There's going to be, you know, romance and hijinks, and it's just in only the way that Angela Thirkle can do it. So Pomfret Towers is the next one that I was supposed to get to in the Barsetshire series, and I will let everyone know what I think of that. Then I have added a mystery because solely of the cover. I mean, I wanted to get to this anyway, but the cover to me just screams spring or summer, and I'm too antsy to wait until the summer. So I put it on my spring TBR, and that is the Grandchester Mysteries. This is book 1, and it's Sidney Chambers and the Shadow of Death by James Runcie. In case anyone does not know about this series, it has been made a lot more famous by the PBS miniseries called Grandchester, and it is about the character of Sidney Chambers, who is a vicar in a really small town and ends up kind of solving crime on the side. And from what I can tell in the different synopses on the different sequential books, there's a plot element in the miniseries that really made me uncomfortable. I really didn't like it, and it's not in the books. So I was put off by that plot element, and then I realized it's different than it is in the books. So I'm really looking forward to this. And also, I think this will be a really fun, even lighter mystery read, simply because they're little like vignettes. It's not one overarching story in this one. And I think in a couple, maybe 3 out of the 5, it is that way. So that will be interesting and very different from the rest of the mysteries that I read. So I like to switch things up, even with the mysteries that I read. And I'll let everyone know what I think of that. Then one that I chose for a spring TBR solely because of the spine and the cover, and that is Not Just Jane. This is by Shelley DeWeese, and the tagline says, "Rediscovering 7 amazing women writers who transformed British literature." And you can see their silhouettes. Up here, it's Mary Elizabeth Braddon, Helen Maria Williams, Sarah Coleridge, Mary Robinson, Charlotte Turner Smith, Catherine Crowe, Dinah Mullock-Craik. So Shelley DeWeese is a fan of Jane Austen, but I think her point in this book is that there are other wonderful Victorian and other era authors out there that aren't acknowledged nearly as much as Jane Austen, because she's been made so popular by you know, the movies that have been put out. And so she just wants to raise more awareness for these authors. I did look up, and unfortunately these authors either only have one book that's in print or no books. So I would only be able to read ebooks of these authors if, you know, besides the one. But hopefully I like them enough that I'm willing just to read the ebooks. But there is something I think really spectacular about just holding a physical copy in your hands. But I'll be intrigued to see what she has to say about them and the ones that I hadn't even heard of before. Next, another modern classic, an author I've really been wanting to get to for a couple of years, ever since I heard Lil from Lil's Vintage World talk about this author, and that is E.F. Benson, and he wrote the Map and Lucia novels. So these are the inaugural novels, and it's Queen Lucia and Miss Mapp. And these are just comedies of manners, and there's going to be lots of just funny things that happen, hopefully beautiful writing, and I think that Lucia kind of takes herself really seriously. If anyone has seen Keeping Up Appearances, she might be kind of a Hyacinth Bucket type character. And Miss Mapp is her friend, who I think is supposed to be more down to earth. But these are the 2 books combined into one, and I think I'd like to go ahead and read the first 2. And if I like those, then I'll go ahead and buy some of the sequential ones in the series. And then I have a couple classics that I've just been kind of thinking about reading for a while. One I bought in January, and the cover to me just seems extra suitable for spring. It's very beautiful. It is George Eliot's Daniel Deronda, and I love the Oxford World Classics covers that they pick. There's something really simplistically elegant about them. And in case you don't know, Daniel Deronda is a book that involves a lot of the Jewish community in the Victorian era, which should be really interesting because of the anti-Semitism that even today we see a lot of. I think should be really interesting. But this, one of the main characters in this is Gwendolyn, and it's just her kind of journey. She wants to have money, and she wants to be able to take care of herself in the future. So I think it's just her journey through adulthood and trying to find things. I have seen the miniseries, so that does ruin it a little bit for me, but I am still really looking forward to reading this. Middlemarch and I have a complicated relationship. It has stayed with me a lot, but at the time it kind of felt I felt a little bit of drudgery as I was reading it, and I have heard a lot of people who maybe didn't necessarily enjoy Middlemarch all that much who really enjoyed Daniel Deronda. And I also think there's a fair amount of music in this, which will be really interesting to see George Eliot write about that. But I also think that in a few years' time, I will just reread Middlemarch and hopefully maybe feel more positive about it that time around. But that is the big classic I want to get to. And then I have a couple classics that aren't quite as big that I want to try this spring as well. And the first is Ivanhoe, a romance by Sir Walter Scott. I've been wanting to read Ivanhoe ever since. Those of you who have read the Betsy Tacy series will know there is a infamous book report scene in that series when Betsy worked really hard over the summer before, I think it's 11th grade, reading Ivanhoe, and then she writes a beautiful book report, and then the two of her guy friends who walked her to school that morning had not read Ivanhoe and asked her to give them kind of the Cliff Notes version of it, and so she does on the way to school, and then the teacher ends up liking their book reports, which are much more succinct, and saying that Betsy's is far too wordy. And so of course Betsy is very flustered that she, you know, took the time reading it, and the teacher likes the slackers book reports even more. But Ivanhoe is a tale of love, and it's very romantic. It has Robin Hood, it has Prince John, King Richard, you know, all of those sort of things. And I do love the Robin Hood legend, so it will be really interesting to read this. I'm hoping it's not too dense. It does have quite the reputation. I will report back, of course, what happens with this. And then the final book on my spring TBR, one that every single lady I know who likes Jane Austen loves this classic. And this was a classic that was loved by Jane Austen, and that is Evelina by Frances Burney. This is kind of a coming of age story of a woman in the, is it Georgian era? I think it's Georgian era because she was around when Jane Austen was around. So anyhow, I think it's supposed to be full of really funny things, which I love to laugh out loud during classics. And you don't see that with all classics. So I will let you guys know what I think of this, but it's just supposed to be very fun. Just a very fun spirit and dynamic to it. That is my spring TBR. Please, viewers, let me know if there are any certain types of books, particular books that you claim in the springtime. Otherwise, I will let you guys know what I think of these books, and have a lovely rest of your day.